product, and we really wanted millet to come into mainstream. I think we'll get there, but there's still a lot of work to go. Now, some of the risks and opportunities in that regard, there's still the risk of millets being polished just like rice. So rice actually usually starts out pretty healthy. It's a great natural product. It has a lot of nutrients and a lot of fiber. But of course, we refine it, we polish it, we take out a lot of the fiber, we take out quite a lot of the micronutrients. So it ends up not a very healthy product and high glycemic index. Millet has the risk of going that way as well. And in a way, it's at a bigger risk as well, because at least with rice, if you see brown or black rice versus a white rice, you can usually, it's not guaranteed, but usually be assured the white rice is refined and polished, so not very healthy. The black or the brown rice is. Whereas the millets, the consumers can't see that difference in the same way. So there's still a risk there. There's a risk of ultra-processing and what I would call nutrition washing, where people will say this has got millets, and so people now are more aware of the health, that millets are healthy. But if it's been ultra-processed, it's not always going to be healthy anymore. So there is a risk of that still happening. Millets are recognised as being better on the environment, but there's a risk that non-agroecological approaches can be taken, so we can start doing monocropping of the millets instead of the millets bringing in great biodiversity on the farm. And yeah, so there's still that risk happening. We still have the issue around not having a level playing field. So there's been so much subsidy and more attention and research put into the major crops that then there isn't a level playing field for the millets and some of the other biodiversity. But if anything, we not only need a level playing field, we actually need to incentivize to bring in this biodiversity. Seed and breeding systems for the millets are still in early development stage compared to the big crops and compared to the amount of funding that's been put into them. And when before we talked about the critical need also for farmers to be incentivized to increase production of millets, really they need the best yields, they need the best growing environment and methods. So really all this needs even more attention added to it. We also, what we did through our studies is we identified that the variety of millets made a huge difference in the nutrient value. So for example, just by choosing the right variety of millet, you could triple the amount of iron in the millet. Now, the industry isn't developed to the level yet that people are selecting by variety. Now, the best way we could do that is through the government systems like the school feeding program, where they are going to buy a certain amount of millet. Then they could say, right, we require it to be the variety that's got triple the amount of iron. And I mean, that's massive just by selecting the variety, doing nothing else, just selecting the variety to triple the iron of what's already a good level of iron. I mean, that can just make an absolutely massive difference. So I think this is an area the industry really, really needs to develop, and great potential too, if we can do this. I think there's still excellent opportunities for SMEs, but SMEs, small and medium enterprises, the startup companies that have had all the millet products, a large percentage of them struggle just as much as farmers struggle. There's a lot of incubators that will help start up a company, but there's very few that help them scale. And that's where the biggest challenge is. And there needs to be new approaches to help the startup scale in these products. And that's where the real need is. So what we've seen here is there's a need from the awareness and the whole marketing side, but also balancing that with the production incentives, how we give those incentives to farmers to really increase the production of millets as well. So that's looking, okay, so the first approach we had was about a triple bottom line. The second approach was about smart foods and driving demand. The last thing that I'll look at now is empowering the national systems and taking collective action. So this is a very different approach again. It's just talking about alternate approaches here. And I'll explain this. So a number of different studies have shown, and there's different ones, but this is a typical figure, that investment in agriculture, research and development, the return on investment is 10 to 1. So for every $1 invested, there's a return of $10, which is a really, really good return on investment. And actually what that means is that we're not investing enough, because we should be investing up until it gets 1 to 1, and then you've hit the peak. So it means we're significantly underinvesting in agricultural research for development. We're grossly underinvested. And some of the approaches here is about how we really engage and empower the national systems to be able to do more. And I'll just talk about GFAIR. So GFAIR, the Global Forum on Agricultural Innovation and Research. It was started about 20 years ago when there was a consultation of 80 different NARS, the National Agricultural Research Systems, convened a big meeting by IFAD in Rome, one of the UN agencies. And all the different national systems from many different countries were saying that they wanted to have more say in international agricultural research, because there was a lot of funding that went into at the international level for agricultural research. And there was a declaration made to strengthen also the work between the NARS and the CGIAR, which is the world's largest sort of agricultural research for development organization. And so then after that, GFAIR was created by a group of the NARS from all different countries, the World Bank and other UN agencies and the CGIAR. And then in just May last year, we launched a global NARS consortium. So this was like you have a World Farmers Federation. Well, this was a global NARS consortium for the national research and innovation systems, and how we can bring their voice to the global system and elevate their voices of what the national systems need and how they want the international systems to really be co-designed, and the national systems co-designing and having a lot of input into even what happens globally. So there was a declaration to start this global NARS consortium, and it was signed by, these are all a number of global, regional agricultural innovation and research forums for each region in the world. And it was really about setting up partnership principles and collective action. So how we work together more, we'll be stronger together more, and how the national systems are influencing what's happening globally and even within their own countries from global actors. And some of the collective actions that GFAIR had been running, we've been looking at AI being integrated into farmer extension. But again, we're very much about ground up and how farmers then are engaged and involved with this, and the national systems are involved. We've got a pilot running in Morocco, Egypt, and India, in Maharashtra in India. And it's looking at combining AI with farmer-to-farmer extension systems. And it's very much based on promoting agroecological approaches, including water management. And we're training the chatbot, which is called Ask Aggie, with both NAS and CGR and private sector information. And then there'll be farmer-to-farmer learning videos, and they're translated. And a lot of youth and women are trained, and entrepreneurs as extension agents. That was just one example. But so that's the point there on empowering the national systems and having more collective actions. It's getting more people to work together, and it's very much about co-designing through to co-implementation. There's a lot of partnership that happens, but it's not what I call co-partnership, where you really are co-designing. And it's really different approaches here, and it's really trying to do this more internationally so that there is a lot more knowledge sharing, but really in a co-partnership approach. So that was just some of the different approaches and thoughts and different ways of doing things. It's about ag food being reimagined and transforming how we grow and eat, and particularly with that triple bottom line. So that's it, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this great lecture. And I would like to say that for the participants, if anyone have any questions, so kindly please drop in the chat box. Okay, ma'am, I have one question that what practical frameworks on indicators can be used to measure the triple bottom line impact on agri-food innovations across the entire value chain from production to consumption?
Yeah. Thank you. No, that's actually a really good point to talk about indicators. And really what organizations should be doing is setting up their own indicators for each of the three areas. And if I can use an example of like an ICAR Institute or a CGIAR Center, they really shouldn't just be thinking about just say increasing production. I mean, that's always going to be an indicator, but that's not good enough. And if I can use rice as an example, really just producing and consuming more white refined rice is not meaning we're having healthier food. It is not meaning it's better for the environment. And we may have increased farmer income levels, but sometimes even that's not the case. But it just so happens with rice, there are some excellent scientific breakthroughs, and there's been a lot of work done on them. So, for example, from an environmental perspective, there can be direct seeded and dry direct seeded rice. Actually, the last speaker even talked about wet and dry production of rice, where he mentioned it using 30% less water. It actually has significant decrease in the methane gas emissions, and it actually also can mean less labor is needed, and so on. So you actually can look at your production and saying, right, if we're focused on rice, we want to do it so it's not only increasing production, but we're using methods that will use, and you can set a target of 30% less water, 30% less methane gas emissions, and then you can have it so it actually is still more productive for the farmer, lower cost of production. But then if you look at the nutrition side, there actually is now new rice varieties out there that have a low glycemic index and higher zinc levels. So you could say, okay, so we also want to set a target where we have more biofortified rice varieties, and or the lower GI rice. And so you can set targets that aren't just production. It's production, environment targets, and the nutrition and health targets. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. As there are so many questions in the chat box, is there any platform where people can connect with you? So if there will be any kind of query for you, so you can directly
Right.
like
Yeah.
answer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you just type in my name in LinkedIn, that's probably the best way, and message me through LinkedIn.